Welcome to the Soul Tribe Podcast. The Soul Tribe Podcast was created to help you navigate through the world of spirituality, wellness, and self-development in an easy, grounded, and relatable way. We break down everything from the Akashic Records, manifesting, spirituality, and so much more. We want to help expand your boundaries and bring the spiritual world to you in a fun and easy way. Get ready to be inspired with tips, tools, and easy to digest information. Let's do this.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Tribe Podcast. Today, the idea for the episode is to actually just kind of like talk about, in general, without a specific kind of agenda, but to talk about what it might be like for individuals after getting an Akashic Record reading. We realized we never talked about that. And actually what should happen, what should people do to take advantage of that, but what can happen if you don't take advantage of the reading, right?
Yeah, the post-reading is probably where you're able to connect most with your free will and where you're able to actually make the changes. Because obviously during an Akashic Records reading, we're connected to the fifth dimensional energy, we're receiving information, we're receiving healing. I mean, we're in that energy the entire time that you're in the reading. But really when your Akashic Records are closed, or when the person closes your records, especially when you're getting a reading from somebody else, I think this is probably where we're going to focus most of the information on when you get a reading and what to do with all that information. Okay, one thing that I keep thinking about really is just this idea of the information that's recorded. Lucy and I both encourage others to make sure that they have a recording that they can take with them afterwards. Personally, in my experience with the Akashic Records, especially when I first started off and I started getting readings, and even now when I get a reading from somebody else, I do listen back to that recording, and it's significant because during the reading, it's really hard to retain and absorb and understand all the information because there's just so much going on at an energetic level when we're connected to the fifth dimensional energy, but also, we have to think we're not completely detached from our ego. So there is some expectation, there's some worry, there's some anxiety, especially if it's our first reading. And the idea here is that when you finish the reading, you can go into that recording, listen back at your own time, at your own pace, and start to allow things to click and start to integrate them. And from there, I always feel like that's when things start to actually change. Obviously, you could just start to feel different and start to show up differently in your life. But I find that in general, listening back, most of my clients will say, I listen back now it makes even more sense. Now this is clicking. Now I understand fully this relationship with this person or these things or these patterns that are going on in my life. It's hard sometimes during the reading. So after you've done the reading, obviously the person's going to close your records. You're going to, obviously we do online readings, so you're going to be in your home or wherever it is that you got the reading, and you're going to kind of detach from the information. I think that's generally what most people do and most people feel, because it's a lot, and we're going to have to process, integrate the information and kind of, I don't know, it's like, it's not this overwhelming feeling after reading because you definitely feel more aligned and more calm. It's just needing to kind of separate from that information and then go back to it. And I think once we're able to go back to it, that's when we can start to make decisions. And this is where our free will starts to play a huge role in what path we take. And we have options, this is where we always talk about free will. We've done episodes on free will. We talk about that so much because it is a huge part of our soul contract in this life of, I was told all these things during the reading and told or explained or understood now these dynamics in my life and these patterns that I have. And I have the choice to start to look at them differently, to start obviously not judging yourself because that's not what the Akashic Records are about, but starting to decide to live differently because it's more aligned. It's going to help bring opportunities. It's going to help make you feel better. It's going to help open things up. It's a lot of free will after the reading. And like we always say, once we finish channeling, this is your information to do what you want to do with it. You have the choice. We no longer play a role in your path. We can obviously support you in whatever way, but in general, after the channeling, the information's yours and you're able to do what you want.
Yeah. I mean, the kind of connecting that they can email us back with after their reading is things like, I'm really into, like, after my reading, I realized that I really want to do this spiritual practice. Do you recommend anybody? Or I'm feeling like I really want to touch on this subject more, like it came in the reading and I want to understand it more. Do you recommend any books? Like, that's the kind of thing that usually people will kind of connect with you. But they already know, like, they got all the information they need in that reading. And now they need to, like, sit down and, like you're saying, like, redigest with it, listening to it again. I don't know how you dealt with it, but I know that I was always sent a lot of details, homeworks, or like little, like, remember, like, when this happens, this, and remember, like, when this happens, you think this, right? Those little, like, information, or those, like, little mantras, or small advice, or you know, and even homework that they give you, like, you need to do this and you need to do that. I would re-listen back with a notebook and a paper and be pausing it, write it. Play, pause it. So then
that's what I would do.
Yeah. So then after I have my paper written, it says things I need to do, like the list, and then like mantras I need to repeat, and what scenarios, like whatever it is they were giving me, so then I didn't miss anything that I was supposed to. And I would follow to the T every single thing that they told me to do. And it always helped me. It always helped me. And then after I did it, even if it sounded stupid, I always went, yeah, it's a good thing I followed, even though I wasn't sure why I was doing it, but fully sure sometimes. I mean, this is in the beginning when I first started reading Akashic Records, when someone first read my Akashic Records and I just got into reading my own. It's like in the beginning, when you're a little bit new to the spiritual stuff and they send you certain homeworks and things, you're like, why? Like, how is this going to help? Like, I don't get it. But it does. It really does help.
Yeah. It does. I would get homework. I would get advice. I would get mantras or energetic verses that I can repeat. But that really makes me start to think about another aspect of a reading, right? When you get a reading, you're getting your recording. What do you do with that recording? Some people have asked us, can I share this? Can I send this to somebody? Can I tell somebody everything that I got? And usually our rule of thumb with that is, first of all, the information is yours. You can do whatever you want with it. We're not here to tell you how to manage your information because it's not ours. We don't keep it. It's yours. And our general advice is don't share it with anybody that's not open to this path of the Akashic Records or just spirituality in general, because generally speaking, and this is experience that I think I've had, at least personally, with very few people, but with some people, like, oh, that sounds... Like, first of all, like, what is the account? And they'll start like being funny about it. Like, what?
They'll make fun of you about it. Oh, you went to a psychic or.
Yeah. So be careful. This is just protecting also you and the healing that you need to do. And I think we're living in a different time now. I think people are more open to this kind of stuff now, as like even younger than when we were. And I think that's beautiful. But at the same time, it's your information. It's your path. There might be people that will really support you, and it could be beneficial for you to talk through certain things with them, or like a therapist or a counselor. Like, go right ahead and do that if that feels right for you. But I think we always have to like protect ourselves in that sense and make sure that we're just honoring what feels right for us. And we're not here to tell you what to do. Of course, we never are. So that's just an interesting question we always get. Like, what do I do now with the information? And I've even, like, I don't know, I've even done readings for people, they shared it on a podcast, which I find interesting. I don't think I could ever personally do that with my information, but whoever feels comfortable doing that, I mean.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe, I don't think I would be bothered by it. Yeah, probably not, but yeah, everyone's, whatever way they want. What was that? But I was thinking just now, there's just like, there's scenarios where there's information they give you and it's just so intimate that I feel like I would not share it. Like, even with maybe like you, I would say they were talking about this and they were saying this and this is what they explained and I understood this. But I wouldn't, like, if it was something I felt so intimately about, I would not feel comfortable sending it. I will feel comfortable putting it in my own words and giving an overview of it. But that's me.
I agree. No, I'm the same way. And I've told people, that's basically how I would share my information. And I'd share what I thought was significant or that I thought the person would appreciate, or that they could help me, gives me some feedback on how I was feeling with the information I got. But ultimately, that information you're receiving, what it really does many times, and this depends on the reading, of course, is bring things to our conscious. So some things that we didn't understand, or kind of piecing things together and bringing things to our consciousness. Like, for example, if we talk about a relationship, let's say with your mom or your dad or your partner, and you're understanding certain patterns, why they're happening. Maybe some of it has to do with what they've lived. Maybe it has to do with a past life. And just having that in your conscious awareness helps you deal with the relationship differently, helps you show up for the relationship differently. And I think those are things sometimes that we don't have to really do much after a reading. It's we understand the dynamic now, and we don't have to be angry. We can let it go. Like, I always remember your story about that relationship you had been in, and how you received that past life information, and all of a sudden you were able to let it go. Like, just the understanding, the awareness sometimes, it totally shifts the way you see and feel and relate to the person. And these are things you can experience after a reading. And let's say that you don't feel differently, but you understand the dynamic. It's giving you permission to slowly start to live it out differently, or to forgive, or to let go of something, or to put up a boundary. Like, all these things, they vary on whatever you're going through and what's happened. And I think they're so important.
I was able to let go of something that had been hurting me for a really long time. And it's not that the person, like what the person did was erased. And it's not like I stopped being hurt. It's just that I stopped. It's like I was able to stop being victim and being upset about it. And I was able to go, okay, I'm going to process this. I'm going to let go of it still, because there's still like a sadness about it. But I understand why the individual did what they did. Like, I just get it now. It just clicks. I get it. That doesn't make it better. It doesn't make the person right all of a sudden instead of wrong or whatever it is. But it's a new perspective on something that happened. I was able to shift myself more out of the victim role. I'm still processing like the sadness and all that, but I'm able to take myself out of victim role and say, why did they do that to me? Why did it happen to me? Like, why me? I would never do it to that person. Like, I was able to let go of that, right? That energy. I was like, oh, my soul did it to that person in their life. Oh, I totally get it now. Like, that actually, you don't have the like scientific evidence in front of you to prove that what the reader is saying is true, right? But when they say it, it clicks in a way in your subconscious mind somehow, and you just accept it. You go, yeah, okay, it makes total sense. Yeah. All right.
and you feel it. You feel it so deeply. It kind of brings things full circle. Totally. I think the victim role is interesting. It's hard when someone goes into a reading with the victim role, because many times they're going to put excuses. There's going to be so much resistance, so much
It reminds me of Christos,
back.
the butt.
The butt, exactly.
No. This is a reading where all the possibilities of your life expand. Your programs that are limiting are out of the window during this time that you're getting the reading for 1 hour. All those programs are out the window because you're not being guided, manipulated, or limited by the programs that you've inherited or you've brought into yourself, right? Because we run on programs, right?
Yeah.
So let's put your programs aside and let's see what could possibly happen for you and how you could align yourself in the best version of your life for you and your soul if you allow yourself to take out the programs with that butt, like, boom, to the side. Great. So I think that there's a lot of, I think those programs that we have, it's cognitive dissonance. So it's like, like you'll give a scenario to somebody and they're like, this is something that's possibly could happen. Or if you go down this line and they want to believe it, but they don't believe it sometimes. Like, I rarely get this, by the way, but like you're saying, the person that does come in the victim role where they're finding it really hard to get out of that, they will come with a lot of that kind of cognitive dissonance energy where, no, I would never accept that, I don't know, karmic mission or...
And the funny part, generally, their energy is like you say something and they already have something to say back.
Yes.
And it's not about being right or wrong. It's just, this is just divine information you're receiving. They're trying to explain a situation and what's going on. And that could be tricky. That could be, those are tricky readings. I don't get those a lot, but I do feel like I've had those, and I continue to have those every now and then.
Yeah, me too.
But what happens with people that are in that energy when they get a reading? Will that reading serve them? Probably not in the way that they need it to be, like the way that they need to be like healed or helped. There's resistance. So generally people who have that energy when they go into a reading, they'll have the same energy when they leave the reading and when they start to live their days, right? And I tend to find that those are the people that might come back and ask the same questions again. And we're going in a loop because there's no change. There's no change of perspective. There's no change of starting to look inward in a different way, of opening up to possibilities. And generally what I find with that energy too, which is interesting after reading, it's usually those people are holding themselves back. They have so much potential. They have so much potential to change, but they really don't want to. They don't feel like they want to. So generally, like the way I'm kind of seeing this is that there's many possibilities after reading, but I would categorize them like first into like the person that went into the reading trying to kind of open up to all of this, and then they're genuinely really, really open to all the information they receive, but then when the reading finishes, they fall back into their old patterns.
I call it like the reading high, where you have a spike of high.
Yes.
During the reading, they're like, yeah, oh my God, yeah, I'm so motivated. And then it's like, after a week of having the reading, it's like, whoa, and right
Yep.
back to the old patterns.
Yeah, 100%. And that's happened to me. That was me for years.
Yeah.
Years. And then the other one is a person that, the person that can come on the other end could be open to it, could be new to it. It could be somebody that was a little maybe resistant to it, but when they get into the reading, everything starts to click and they feel this urge of like, I can't live this way anymore. And a lot of people go into reading with that energy, like, I can't take my life anymore. I'm bored. I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. And all of these possibilities and perspectives open up to them in a reading. And all of a sudden they're like, they have this energy. They have that high. They'll still have that high, but it's not like they don't let the going down of that high to take away the perspective and the information they received. And they know that they have to do the work. And this is why I personally, as a reader, and why I gravitate towards flower essences so much, is because I can feel the energy of the person. And many times I know when that person's going to need the flowers, and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to put together a formula for you. And why sometimes I offer it for free, and why sometimes I suggest people to do a flower essence therapy session, because the flowers can give you that boost that you can't give yourself, especially if you feel stuck, especially now I think about a lot of people that are feeling, if not depressed, very sad, very low, and they feel like they can't get out of this slump that they're in. And a reading can give you that high, but how do you continue after that, after like a month or a couple of weeks after the reading? It varies.
I think it's the way we manage the high is the way that I think people should try to do it. We went and we listened back to it and we jotted down all the things that we needed to have on our list of things to remember, do, be attentive to. And you came down from the high after that, but you keep looking back at the notebook and reminding yourself, okay, I need to do this. Okay, I need to study this. I need to make sure I stay positive about this. I need to make sure I do this mantra when I get stuck in this loop. I need to make sure that I don't let this trigger initiate. And if it does, I need to do that. Like, follow all those things that they gave you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also feel like personally for me, I take that information and I try to channel it somewhere. So for example, if you read your own records, where can you try to open your records and look deeper into that issue that you're going through, or that relationship, or some of that stuff that came through, so you can be honest with yourself and you can kind of connect with that person or that situation in a more aligned way. Another thing that I always feel is like, at least in my readings, many times they will tell people to go an alternative route. Like, okay, the reading's giving you the information, but now you're going to need help. Like, I feel like there's deeper healing. It could be energetic healing. It could be angelic healing. It could be flower essences. There's something more that you need to do. And I get a lot of suggestions from the Akashic Records for specific situations and people to do family constellations.
Yeah, we've talked about that more than once. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll link the episode we did with Marina. But I think be honest with yourself. Like, can I deal with this on my own? I think sometimes people go through so much trauma. There's so much history that is very heavy. Not every reading's super light and airy. A lot of readings can be we can go through a lot of past trauma, a lot of past things that are hard. It could be somebody passing. And many times what I find that's helpful for me is like when I get a reading is bringing that information that came through and some of those aha moments that I had in the reading to a counselor or therapist. Like, let me bring this information, these things I'm feeling. It doesn't have to be all woo-woo, but it can be like, wow, I realize that there's this going on with my mom. I need to talk through this because I need to go deeper with some of this and bring even more things to our consciousness. And obviously you can get another reading later on, but I think there's a processing with it. And I think speaking for some people could be really good. Journaling for some people could be really good. Opening your own records, talking to a friend. I think you have to really honor how you're going through that and what information came through to be able to deal with some stuff. It just varies. It's so different for everybody, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that then like you said, then that third person, we were talking about 3 people. So you talked about 2. Then that third person would be that possibly victim role kind of perspective where the person already comes in and there's a but for a lot of things. And it's almost like the information came in one ear and went out the other because they're not ready to accept it. They're not ready to see it with that perspective from the 5th dimension. And so it's almost like, I don't know what can take people out of that scenario. I think it's hitting rock bottom a little bit more so that at some point you're like, I'm done. I am done being victim. I am done. Like, that's it. I'm done. So it's like you got to get to a point where you're deciding that you're not going to play that role anymore for yourself and in your life, right?
For some people, it does have to be some kind of rock bottom, a situation that just they cannot stand anymore, that is literally holding them back from everything. And I do feel that, at least this is from my personal experience, I do feel like most people that do come to me for a reading, even if they might be a little closed because they might not be ready for some things, they still want to heal. They still feel this intense and this necessity to heal, but they're just not ready for it. And sometimes what that reading can be for them is just starting to open them up to that energy. And it still helps. It's not going to be in vain. I still feel like it helps them because the second reading they get, it goes a little bit deeper. And like we always say, you're never going to hear something that you're not ready to hear in a reading. That's just the way it works. So whatever comes through is what had to come through. And that's what they're allowing to come through. And the free will's in the questions, the free will's in the information that we receive. It's in how we act after and how we perceive things. There's free will everywhere around that, around our healing too, right?
Yeah. I think that maybe let's talk a little bit about free will because it's like this is my human brain trying to break it down, okay? My human brain trying to break it down is you have these probability lines. Supposedly Akashic Records always show us those probability lines, right? And I think there's always one that's more prominent, right? There's one that's you're really already standing in it, or it's the one that's more probable that you're going to stand into, or it's the one that like you're most aligned with right now. If you're thankful about that path, it probably means like if you're like, oh, I'm so grateful for this scenario that's playing out in my life. I'm so grateful for my job or my family. Like that probably means you are on the prominent, I guess you'd say, probability line that's in sync with your karmic contract in this lifetime, right? So I think that you can use your free will and choose something else, and that's great. We have free will, so we have the right to like make any decision we want. But when you're on one of those probability lines, that's not the one that's synced up really well with your karmic contract, that's probably usually when you feel not so great. Mm-hmm. Like, I hate my job. I hate what I'm doing. Oh, yeah. I feel like life doesn't make sense. I feel like I'm wasting my time. Like whatever negative feeling you might be, feeling, it's highly probable that that scenario that's making you feel that is what is not synced up with your soul contract. So even though we have free will, when do we feel good? When we're most aligned with our soul contract, because our soul is doing what it's here to do. Everything's working out. Everything's syncing up. You're there. So I think sometimes we use the word free will, and Akashic Records make sure that you know that you have the free will to choose because they want you to choose for yourself. But they also really want you to choose the right one for yourself because they want to help you and they want you to feel good and they want you to have the experience that your soul signed up for. So just because you have to have free will doesn't mean choosing this over there is going to play out perfectly for you. It just means that you decided to use your free will to go that route. But if it's not synced up with your karmic contract, maybe for the beginning paths of it, it might be great. But after a while, you feel like something's missing or something's not there that should be there, right?
Or you're not learning the lesson that you need to.
Yes.
You're resisting it. So that's where things can feel not so good. Like for the example that you were giving, like work, right? You're in a job, you're overstayed at the job. Maybe everything you needed to learn at the job, you learned it, but there's fear, there's insecurity, and you feel like you can't move on. So then you're staying there longer than you should. And ultimately the lessons or the things that you need to absorb from that job are there, but maybe there's a huge lesson in believing in yourself and being able to expand and grow and look for something better, or just believe in yourself or co-create with the universe, whatever that is. You know what I mean?
There's another term that the Akashic Records use a lot during the readings that I do, at least. They call it like they'll say, someone asks about something and be like, oh, well, I've been here for this many years, or I haven't done this yet. Like, I want to know if there's still a possibility. They'll talk about the door being open or the door being closed. Mm-hmm. So the door being open means you still got some time to go down that path and decide that and use your free will to decide that. Some scenarios they'll say, no, you know what, the door already closed for that. You had the chunk of time. You continued to use your free will and you did not. Let's stick with the job thing. You continued to use your free will and those other amazing job opportunities that could have been there for you, now those doors have closed, right? So whatever opportunity might come in after might not be so great or as aligned as the ones from before. So, you also got to make sure you don't waste. I mean, time is a very 3D Earth universe thing, like this universe thing, right? But you got to make sure that you don't waste so much time in ignoring that thing that you want to change or improve in your life, because that might be one of those scenarios that have a door that can close, and you want to make sure that you get there before that door closes. What that means is things are going to flow really well for you, that the opportunities are going to come in, but the universe is probably making you feel it, and you're probably getting signs all over the place. Maybe coworkers treating you crappy. Your boss all of a sudden is being mean to you. Like, whatever it is, like the universe is telling you, yo, you got to leave this job. You got to leave this. I mean, if somebody knows about that, it's you, Lorena.
Hello. Like, just feel like I get pushed out of things. They're like, well, you're not taking the action. Yeah. Here you go. But
yeah, I always remember Foster saying that. What was it that you twiddled with time kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't remember what he said, but yeah, I was like, yeah, that's me. That's what I'm going through. And everybody's different. I know a lot of people that actually have that happen to them, and I find that so interesting. It's not ideal, and that's where I always think about astrology and everything I'm learning in astrology, and how ideally we would see these lessons that we need to learn and be proactive about them, because then we're not going to have to repeat them. Because when we get forced into situations, many times, I guess it could click in certain ways depending on how you manage the situation, but really ultimately it is being able to make decisions for yourself and being able to align without someone forcing you to do it. But I liked what you said. You were talking about the signs. Of course, there's always going to be signs. There's always going to be those emotions. It's going to be our intuition that's going to tell us this isn't serving me anymore. What am I doing? This is where it's hard for us after a reading to be able to decipher, is what I'm deciding or continuing to live coming from a place of fear, insecurity, and doubt? Or am I living it out because I know this is serving me in some way right now, and I know I'll be able to choose better once I learn these lessons? Because we'll overstay things. As humans, most of us, I don't want to say most of us, a lot of us want to be in the comfort zone. It's just easier. It's safer, especially, if we look at these last couple of years of everything that's happened, everything's just been so unstable. There's no security. There's no, it just feels all over the place. So a lot of us might want to stay in that comfort zone, because what if it happens again? especially work. I think work's a huge trigger for many of us. It's a huge way of learning. So like relationships too, but I think work's interesting because it's such a very human dynamic. Jobs. We have to have a job so we can get money and live. Sometimes it can be attached to our purpose, and we've talked about that on the podcast before, but a lot of times work can just be a gateway for us to learn our lessons and see certain things or meet certain people and have certain relationships and connections. It depends on the person and their soul contract.
Yeah. Like, talk about relationships for a second. I find it interesting because if you hear a lot of people talk about how, for example, oh, the pandemic, there's so many breakups and so many couples separated, right? And I think that it's just that one of the scenarios that might have played out is that people were spending more time with each other and they realized, maybe I'm not so aligned with this person anymore. Maybe like we were just so busy with this person had their job, I had my job, they had their friends, I had my friends, right? Maybe we co-parented or something, like, but it's like the spending time together might have not been a lot. And then all of a sudden now they do have to spend a lot of time. They realize, you know what, we're not really in sync anymore like we used to. Or we don't have so much in common anymore. So I think that might be one scenario that played out. On top of the things that people have triggers, people were under severe stress, and that stress, we don't react well to stress. So I think the limiting experience and the stress might have also been partially, depending on who you're talking about, of course, but that might have been part of it. And then the other thing, like I was trying to zoom out of it, and I thought, because you hear a lot of psychologists talk about like our era, like our age, there's so many divorces, right? From before, there wasn't so many. But then you think about it and you think, okay, what's changed? Let's go to like our mom. Like back when our mom, mom was probably around the first era, a little bit before, but there was the first era of women that were able to actually go into the work field and make money. So
That is so funny you're talking about that.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is a huge conversation we had the other night with mom and dad, and I was asking all these questions. Sorry to interrupt you. I'll talk about this afterwards. I was asking mom because she's like, none of these, we're talking about work and women and their role. And I can only speak for South America, at least for Uruguay. I don't know if this was the case for the United States, but maybe anybody from South America might relate to this. And mom's just turned 65, and she was talking about how it wasn't common. Like you would dedicate, especially like our grandparents, like her mom, like you didn't work if you were a woman. You were to stay home and take care of the kids, and the man would go and work and provide for the family. And even when so the next generation over, so our mom, who I said was 65, it wasn't pushed on women to go work. I think for our situation, when we moved to New York, mom found so much independence in that. And I think that really helped her. But I do feel like she's like, at least in our grandparents, none of those women worked. And the generation down, a lot didn't work either. Some did, but very few. And those that did were very professional. Like there was like lawyers, there were psychologists, there was like accountants, but they weren't the norm.
There were few.
The next generation down, that completely changed.
Yeah. And
I think a lot of women do feel this need to connect with something that they're passionate about outside of the home.
Yeah.
Not everybody, and that's okay. There's no judgment in whatever you want to do, but it's interesting to see that change. And I kept kept explaining, I can't put it into words because obviously it's different. I didn't live that, but it was interesting to see how that shifted. And I look at our generation and then the next generation down, and it's like we're different beings.
Yeah.
It's so weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like we're living another world.
I guess it's a process of the technology and evolving and all those things, right?
Totally.
But
yeah, I agree.
But yeah, so my point was, and what you were saying is exactly, that's what I was trying to say. Like our era now, it's different. I think that before, I think souls want to change up partners. I think souls want to close cycles, maybe open new ones, or maybe there's a soul that goes, you know what? I want to close out all the cycles I can. I'm going to try to finish these 3 relationships. So maybe they have to marry this person and then marry the other one. Like maybe they're supposed to have 3 marriages, and it's not, society's calling it you have 3 failed marriages. No, maybe you have 3 successful closures of cycles. Like there's this judgment, right? Like because we just see things as failures all the time. But now women can decide to walk off because, like you're saying, they're financially on their own. They can sustain themselves. Before
Exactly.
souls that came in as women didn't have that option. Souls that came in as women had to stay with a man, and he could come home and be aggressive and beat her and be mean, and she just still had to sit there and deal with it.
She had no option.
She had no option. And then if you go even further back, not only was it not okay to be able to do that because financially she couldn't, it was frowned upon by religion. Like the woman can't even be in, you couldn't be seen in society without a man standing next to you, for example, right?
Yeah.
So like,
I mean, that still plays a role today, not as heavily.
yeah, it depends on where you're talking in the world,
people
of
judge
course.
that.
But I'm talking about most Western or more developed countries. Now a woman can decide, I'm moving out. I'm going. I'm done with this. This doesn't suit me anymore. I'm done. I'm closing this door or the cycle. So I think that we need to adapt our way of seeing things. And maybe ending, because, I'm saying this because a lot of readings I get, people ask about the relationships, and some women have been dragging their marriages on, and I can tell you, I went through that, like dragging your marriage on just because I don't want to get divorced. I wanted to make it work. Like, you can't change the other person. And sometimes, some scenarios, maybe you're here to learn something from them, and then once you click that person can change with you. That could be. But generally speaking, only a person can change if they want to. So if you're with somebody and they keep being the same and they don't want to change and they don't change and they don't change, so is that on you? It
depends.
Yeah, like
Depends.
If you went in and you said, "Am I triggering this person, or is there something about me that's bringing this lesson?" You've gone through all those processes.
And am I playing the right role in the relationship? Because what I find that I've done and that a lot of people do, they play like the mother role.
Yeah,
especially women. We play that because
we're
a lot. So I mean, you can't change somebody. I totally agree with that, and that's something that I think a lot of us understand in theory. But when we're in a relationship or we're in a partnership, that can be difficult to understand because we're in it. Like we always say, it's always easier to understand things when we have a different perspective, where we can like zoom out and see it, understand it when we're not in the feelings. It's like I was talking to another friend. He was giving me advice about something. And he's like, it's so funny. I gave you all this advice about this one thing, but I'm not doing it myself.
That happens all the time.
I do the same thing, dude. I do the same thing.
I think people think that like we're readers. We talked about this before. And I had the image when I went to get my first reading, like, oh, this person's got like life totally sorted out for themselves. Like they know it all, right? Like as readers, we're really good at connecting with your spiritual team and your Akashic Records and giving you the information. But that doesn't mean we're freaking like, we got it down, because we're human just like everybody else. We're also asking similar questions the same and dealing with what's the correct thing for my soul and its plan. So it's like we're all in this mess together.
Yeah, and it is always harder to see things when you're in it. That's just the way it works. But it's interesting what you were saying about the dynamics of women and how, we're not going to talk about too much about divorce, but it's interesting to see that, and how I still feel like we're coming full circle on that, on women feeling empowered, but from a place of equality, from a place of no one's better than the other person, right? It's not from this ego place. I think that's what sometimes can push us in a not so healthy way, or relationship or interactions with people. And I think it's interesting to see, like I said, I don't get a lot of readings from, I think probably 20 something up, but younger than that. I'm curious to see where like things are going. Like what will the next generation do with everything that they have available to them and everything that's coming?
Like Aurora's
quite interesting.
generation. Like what are they? Yeah. How are they going to be living? What's they're going to be their normal? You were talking about that woman thing. Like women back then were supposed to just stay home. Like they didn't even it wasn't even a question if you're going to get a job or not, right? If
you were expected to have a family and raise your kids and be there for them and cook and whatever that was. I don't know.
I had the issue where like I struggled. Like I had Aurora, and I was only given, which depending on where you are in the world, this was actually more time than like some people in the States even get. But I was given 2 months without pay. So
Isn't it 3 weeks?
No, was it? No, I was with Aurora till she was 3 months old. So 1 month I took was I managed to extend my vacation. I made it till she was 3 months, I think it was. Wasn't it?
Okay. I'm pretty sure it's a couple weeks you get in the Cayman Islands.
No, you can take, but you're not getting paid. No one's paying you. Nothing's coming in.
Yeah, no one's paying you. Yeah.
So I had to
Not everybody can do that.
Exactly. So I had to like bust my butt and work 20 hours a day while I was heavily pregnant. Till the day I gave birth, I worked so that I could actually be with my child when she was born. And I remember when I was finally home and I was like with her, in the beginning, it was like I had a lot of time. So it was like, I didn't think about going back to work. But when I started getting closer to go back to work, I felt the sense of depression. Like, I have to leave my baby at home. Like, I can't be with her. And she's like this tiny thing and she's still breastfeeding. And at the same time, I have to work and give half of my pay to someone to take care of the baby because I need to go to work. And I was like, how does this feels
so
wrong.
Tricky.
And it doesn't make sense. And I just like,
something's not right. So I'm not saying what was happening before is wrong. I'm just saying we should have the choice to do what feels right for us and not feel judged by society or expectations.
That
right?
was the first time in my life that I said, I don't want to work anymore. The first time in my life. Maybe that was an ancestral thing because it's like, it's in our genes to stay home with the baby. That could have been some of it. But I felt a lot of emotion about it. Like I was attached, and this is normal. It's a biology thing. It's a chemistry with your baby, right? I wanted to stay home I wanted to get out of the house because I needed to like be Lucia without the baby, like you were saying. But I also really wanted to stay with my baby and like see her wake up and you know, just the whole thing. So it was, I found it really rough. And now today I can tell you that I at least found a balance that I'm comfortable with. Like, yeah, it's not the easiest, but I get to be there to pick up her at school and drop her off. And if she has it, like, for example, the teacher was sick 2 days ago and they just canceled class. So there was, you know, if I was working, I don't know what those mothers did, but I could stay home with Aurora fine. And because everything I book after she's sleeping, right?
Right. Yeah. So you're okay in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we should talk deeper into this on another episode, but I feel like, there's so many, there's just one aspect of, like, if we think about, we're talking about information that comes through in a reading, it's, this stuff can affect, like, things that our parents lived, that our grandparents lived, the way that they lived, that can affect us and hold us back on things that we feel that are right for us, but maybe we don't think or we don't feel that people accept it. Or you might find a resistance to it. Like you're saying, I want to totally be, so many women that feel like they want to be independent and that they want to have these careers that are amazing and they have the right to do it. But there might be guilt in that and they might have to work through emotions internally because, or vice versa, right? I don't want to work anymore and that's okay too. And I'm all right with that. And I feel more fulfilled when I'm able to take care of my kids and stay home.
I don't know how most women in Holland are doing it, but the majority, it's seen as women usually work 3 or 4 days in the week. So the men do the full, but they share expenses. Like women still pay for the bills with the men and stuff, but they're still here to be with the kids. So it's just maybe don't spend all of their, like they don't have every day off, but the majority of them seem to work 3 to 4 days. And that's the norm here. The women are expected to pay the bills here. Like, have you ever heard people say like the Dutch way? Like when you go to dinner, you go, oh, we're doing the Dutch way. But it's like the Dutch are known for women are expected to pay. Like I remember the first time I went on a date with Sander and I was like, I tested him and I said, am I paying the bill with you or are you paying the bill? Am I paying the bill? He goes, yeah, we can both pay. I said, really? You're going to make, I was like, no, man, you invited me on a date. You're paying for the date. It's like, you want me to come on another one? But, you know, I don't know. That's a Hispanic thing. Like I expect to be
that's also societal, right? Like wherever you live, everybody sees that differently.
Yeah. But here it's like, yeah, it's normal. And for me, it wasn't. And I felt like, do you like me or not? Like,
Don't take it personal. You know what I mean?
it's hard. Yeah, it's hard. It's a culture. It's custom. Some women.
It's culture,
so if you
true.
talk to, for example, if you talk to other women here that are very like, very strong, opinionated about like women's power and, feminism, right? Actually, if I've heard of these stories, like especially from Sanders' side, like he'll tell you stories about people he knows where it's like the guy tried to pay the bill and the woman got really offended.
Really?
Yeah, because what do you think I can't play myself? Like I don't know. There's like it's the ego thing you're talking about. Like
that's ego. Yeah, that's ego.
So I think that everything we progress in, or women, okay, now can become independent. Like we need to be able to find that the harmony with it.
That also goes into a lot of the masculine and feminine, like divine energies.
Oh my God, that affects
how
a
that's
lot.
sometimes so unbalanced. So I still have to do a whole episode on that and talk about that. I just haven't felt called to do that yet. But
and I
yeah,
think
definitely
that's what men struggle with, because now women feel empowered. Now women don't need.
They're disempowered.
Yeah. And I think that women start taking a little bit more of that masculine energy, like you're saying, and men are like, where's my place? Like,
Yeah, we're not talking about like gender, right? This isn't about being a man or a woman or whatever that is. We all have that balance internally of the masculine and the feminine, every single one of us.
Yeah,
regardless of our gender.
Of course. We all have that. Like men have to have feminine and women have to have masculine. But what I'm talking about is that dynamic we were previously talking about, family dynamic, where it's like the man would go to work and the woman is home. Like now it's like, oh, the woman's like, I'm going to go to work. I don't need you anymore. Like if the woman gets so empowered to the point where she destabilizes and deharmonizes, her feminine energy becomes more masculine. We talked about family constellations. Then she comes home. She has more masculine energy than her mate, who should be the masculine energy in the house. Now you're displacing that other energy. And that energy might not deal with it very well, to the point where they'll start pulling back and maybe not even doing things around the house, not helping with anything because, you don't need me. Right? So it's like action, reaction.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love what you said about the family constellations. It's the roles. I want to get more into that in the podcast too. Maybe I'll do a solo episode one day about the roles we play in relationships, or roles we play in our families, and how, generally speaking, when something's not working, when the dynamic's off, when there's friction, generally there needs to be an order placed. We need to find order in the relationship or the family or whatever that is, because something's off, something's not working, and we have to check ourselves too. Like, what energy am I really in? That's something we can all ask ourselves. What energy do I generally operate in? If you're always in one, then we're going to have to try to connect with that other energy and be like, all right, it's all right if I'm more in this energy, but I'm going to have to find balance sometimes.
That's funny you're saying that, because I was actually talking to Julio today, my good friend Julio, and I was talking about how you have more of the feminine energy in readings and I have more masculine, right? So I think that's why when we do dual readings, it's cool. Like, I feel like I can do my thing more when I'm doing a reading with you, because I don't have to go into the trauma, the like ancestral, like more like, okay, how do you feel? Like more the thing that you're good at. I can actually be more my channel, because when I'm doing a channel on my own, I'm being both, right?
That's interesting.
Yeah, but when I'm with you, I actually let go of that. It's weird. It's like this thing I already know. I'm like, okay, cool. Now I can totally just do what I love doing, the part of channeling that I love doing, which is like, get this done, blah, 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 blah.
I feel the same when we do dual readings. It's really interesting. It's like I can relax a little bit more, because I know I don't have to channel parts that might not resonate with me. And I feel like things align in a way, interestingly, when we do dual readings. It's like, I touch on things that I know I have to touch on, and you touch on things, and then we complement that information, because if I say something, you're going to say something too, and vice versa. So I always feel like they end up kind of coming full circle in this beautiful energy.
It's like a ping pong ball.
It's really
like,
very complete.
You like
it's a ping pong ball,
and
totally.
I go to the side, and you go to the side, but bing, 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 bing. But yeah, it's nice. Like, you get to surrender that, and you can just focus on the part, the channeling that your energy knows well, because that's your energy, right?
Yeah, of course. We went on a little bit of a tangent there outside of the Akashic Records, but that's okay.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about people's struggles and things, and these are things that are in a lot of people's lives. So
true, very true.
A happy Easter. I mean, this comes out
on Monday.
Which is
Monday the 18th, I think. Yeah,
which is Easter, right?
Yeah, which is Easter. We're recording this on the 13th. Yeah. Happy Easter. Hope you guys had a great holiday.
I mean, not everybody celebrates it, but for those that do.
No, you know, if you do, amazing. If you don't, we still want to say congratulations.
Jon Stewart's like, what's with the eggs?
Yeah, I remember that.
What did he say? That's good. He's like, what was it like? He came in and was like, listen, I'm going to come back. When I come back, I don't want to see no fucking eggs. Hide all the fucking eggs. Like, it's true. Like, these traditions adapt. Sorry for cursing, but that's literally what Jon Stewart said. Like, these traditions like turn into these weird things. Like, what's with the
hiding eggs?
Where did chocolate come out of all of this?
Yeah,
I'm guessing the bunnies with the eggs. Like, what's with the bunny, man?
I mean, a lot of things are commercial, right? If you think about Mother's Day, Father's Day, I mean, who invented that? Like, they're just there, and we're supposed to buy presents. We should honor our parents every day. Why on a specific day and give them a gift?
I don't know.
You know
Christmas.
I mean? That's just weird.
Christmas, I think the tree, wasn't it like the Queen of England or someone in England once put a tree up and it became a thing? Like something like that, wasn't it?
I have no idea.
We need to look it up. I think it's something that like some royal family, I'm pretty sure in England did, and then it became something. Everyone wanted a tree like that or something. I don't know.
Not sure. Anyway, going back to what you're saying about the dual readings while we wap up the episode, just want to remind you guys, we do dual readings. So it would be Lucy and I opening the records of whoever comes to us. We both channel, and then we do individual readings. So I do readings for people. Lucia does readings for people. So we'll put our contact information in the show notes. We will also put in some information about the family constellations that we were talking about. We have an episode that we interviewed somebody that talked beautifully about it. And we will keep you guys posted on Akashic Records Level 2 online course. That should be coming out pretty soon, so in May. And to make sure that you're the first one to know about it, make sure you're signed up for our newsletter. I'll put that link in the show notes as well. And we will see you guys next week with a new episode. And we love you guys. Take care and have a great week.
Bye, guys. Thank you.